And I don't know if anybody's here with me. I think there was one person. So I'm going to just kind of hang out for just a second while we see if anybody else shows up. It shows two, but one of those is me on my computer so that I can follow the chat a little bit easier. And I don't know where it's telling me who's here. So if you're here, say hello. I am going to be spending time going through some of my berry toned palettes. I did this back in January with my neutral palettes. I gave my top 10 neutral palettes. I have way more than 10 palettes. I am going to be spending time going through some of my berry toned. Rookie mistake. I got to mute the computer. Sorry about that. Anyway, so I have more than 10. I think I've got 20 some palettes sitting here in front of me. I just went through my collection and looked to see which one had berry tones in it. And I do kind of have them separated into like a top half and a bottom half. Not that that really means much because I like all of them or they wouldn't be in my collection because I did a very thorough declutter last, oh, darn it. Gonna have to do that later. Of course, never get a phone call except when you decide to go live on Facebook. So I do have my computer next to me open so that I can watch the comments, and I am just going to go ahead and get started, and then if people come in we can chat in the comments, and if you have questions for me I will answer any questions, and we'll just hang out and chat and do this for 45 minutes or so and then be on with our day. So let me type something here in the chat real quick. All right, so I think that I am just going to start with some of the bottom half, and then we'll move on to the ones that I really, really like. Hi, Mary, how are you? So the first one I'm going to pick up, and I don't really have them in any order here. We're going to be talking about eyeshadow palettes, Mary. So this first one is in LA Colors. It's the Rose palette. I have 3 of these, and I can't remember now which one of them I liked the best. I think there was a neutral one and then more of a warm colored one, but I think this one was really good. And you can see there's lots of rosy tones in there, and it's not too warm. It's more of a cool toned rosy tones. And this shade right here is really pretty. It's that one right there. The thing I don't like about these palettes, I love the price. They're only like $2.99 or something like that. But what I don't like about them is that the pan sizes are kind of small. And so it's hard to get your brush in there without it overflowing into one of the shades on the other side of it, either side of it. And then it kind of muddies up the color sometimes. So that's one of them. And then probably towards the bottom of this series, of this grouping here, would be this Empower palette from Revolution. This is their Relove brand. It's at Walmart. Everything is super inexpensive. Again, I think this was like $2.99. And I did do a full face of this brand. I have a video of that. And this shade here reminds me very much of the one that I just showed you in the LA Colors. But you can see, I think, that it's a little bit crumbly. And so you'd have to be careful. I got a lot of it out there. You have to be careful with this, and I would suggest probably doing your eye makeup first, because it's going to end up kind of all over your face. But it has great pigment and it's inexpensive, so it's a nice alternative if you're looking for eyeshadow palettes that aren't very expensive. Let's just keep going with that not very expensive, and I have a couple of e.l.f. bite-sized palettes. This one is, I think I put a sticker over I think this one is Rosewater. Yes, I don't like crumbly makeup either, Mary. And then this one is Berry Bad, and I really like the berries in here. So this one is pretty deep, so I would definitely pull in my Wet n Wild Brulee to use as a crease to brow bone setting shade, and then use this one In the transition, you've got two options for a shimmer, and one's a little warmer than the other. You can see this one has a little more orange tones in it, so it's a little warmer, and then this one's a cool toned. And then you have this nice deep color here to deepen things up in the outer corner. These two actually make fairly decent companion palettes as well. I have a wipe next to me so I can clean my fingers off, because I can't open an eyeshadow palette without dipping my fingers in and playing with it. This one I haven't really used very much. It's a complex culture, and it came in an Ipsy. A lot of complex culture comes in Ipsy, but again, you can see it's got these tiny little pans. The colors are really pretty. The shimmer's a nice pink, and then it's got a deeper shimmer down here, and then these two are mattes, and they're really pretty, but the pans are very small, which makes it kind of tough. But it does, you can create a complete eye look with this. This would be a great one for traveling, or just tossing in your purse if you're going to want to, you know, do a little bit more before you go out or something, because it's a really nice small size. And then sticking with that inexpensive brand, we've got this Wet n Wild Color Icon 5 pan. And some of these are good, and some of them I don't like as well. This one I do like. The colors, has a really good pigmentation. The thing I don't like about this one is that this color down here is a shimmer, and I really like this color to be matte, because I kind of have protruding eyes just a little bit. My brow bone is kind of forward, and when you put a highlighter on something, it's going to make it even more forward. And so I really don't want a shimmery color as a brow bone highlight. But it's you know, it's a small thing. And then these two shimmers work really well together. Hi, Erin, how are you? I think it's fun to pull out a bunch of palettes at one time and talk about them and how they compare and what's different about them, because it's just a perspective you can't get when you're just looking at one at a time. This little Essence palette, they have a bunch of these. They have song titles. Yeah, oily eyelids can be a problem with shimmers, Mary, you're right, because it makes them crease. It is a beautiful day. I've actually got a window open, because otherwise my bedroom gets really hot with these lights on and stuff. So anyway, the Essence, My Rose Will Go On, these all have song-themed inspired titles. And this is really pretty, especially if you're new to makeup, because there's nothing too deep in here. You're not going to get overboard. You're not going to get just like so much pigment you don't know what to do with it. On the other hand, if you want to get deep and smoky, it's not going to take you there. But, you know, if you have another one that you can use as a companion, that helps as well. So, but there's two really pretty shimmers that, again, aren't, it's here on these two fingers, that aren't too intense. And then you have 4 mattes. So if you wanted to do an all matte look with this, you actually could. And I think these are like $4.99. So I have this one, I have the taupes, and I have the greens. And they're just really, really pretty palettes. So then we're going to move on into some bigger palettes. That's all of the small ones that I have in here. And I have stacks of palettes in front of me. So if you hear a loud crash, it's because my stacks didn't quite hold up. These two I got in friend mail, and now it's terrible that I don't remember exactly who they came from. But this NK brand stands for Nika K, New York. And the Sugar Plum palette is exactly what it sounds like. Super pink, super pretty. I think I did a short with this one where I did an eye look with this, but just beautiful pinks and purples. And what I like about it is you have these 3 mattes here. This one, let's see. These two, this one, are matte. So to help you with, you know, blending and that kind of stuff. And then you have just a lot of options. While it looks like it's kind of monochromatic, it's really not, because you could take your look in a more purple direction. You could get kind of mauve-y with that one, or you could just go full on Barbie. So, so this one I really like. It's a fun palette, especially for Valentine's Day. And then the other Nikki I have is this one called Mocha Mix, and it gives more of a chocolate-covered strawberry kind of effect. And I did a look with this one. I think when I used this one, I did the cherry cola look. I don't remember, but maybe. And it has a matte white that I look like for the blending shade from Crease to Brow Bone. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 other mattes. So this one actually has 5 mattes, where the other one only had 3. It's a little bit warmer and a little bit deeper. And this is one of my favorite shimmers. This one at the top here is so pretty. And well, let's just give you a couple more. They're so soft. So when somebody talks about having a shimmer that's really buttery, these are what it reminds me of. So it's just like you put your finger in there and it's just really soft, and you kind of feel like you almost sink into it, versus maybe something you may hear somebody talk about, oh, that shade's more of a topper shade. And to me, what that means is it's really thin feeling. Yeah, that mocha one's really pretty for fall also. But so a topper is going to be thinner and a little bit more just kind of glittery. You're going to be able to see whatever's underneath it through it more. Whereas a buttery shimmer is going to be much more opaque. And when you put it down, you won't be able to see if you have a shade underneath it. So this one from Real Her, Dream So Big, is a pretty kind of a muted rosy tone palette. It's more heathered, if you will, something like that. And so it gives just a really pretty feminine look. And yes, I know I have a lot of palettes that have similar shades in them, but I like what I like, and I like variety. So they all get used, so it's okay, right? Anyway, so this one, the shimmers here, most of this palette is matte. These are the only 2 shimmers, this one here and this one here. So you've got a cool tone and a warm tone. But you could do a really pretty, subtle, matte look with this palette. And I think I got this one in friend mail, or it came in an Ipsy, because I've never actually purchased from Real Her. So I think that's where it came from. I probably should have put stickers on my palettes of where they all came from, since they have varied stories of how they come into my collection. But I don't, and my memory is not so great. So I'm just happy to have them all. This one is fairly new. This is a Tarte, and I believe this was their Christmas release this past Christmas. I got this in friend mail from Kim. She sent me a whole bunch of stuff recently. And primarily this palette, I'm going to see if I can, it's reflective, very reflective. There's a lot of warmth in this palette, but I pulled it in here because this top row is definitely berry toned and pinks. And this one here, I think, is kind of a multi-chrome. There's some flecks of gold in here, so I don't know if I turn my finger, if you guys can see the shift. Can you see it shift a little bit, pink to gold? And those are really pretty. And then this one here, oh, these are so soft and so pretty. That's just beautiful, just so pretty. And then one more shimmer on this top row is this gold, which is very bizarre because it looks really kind of champagne-ish in the pan, but on my finger, it's much more gold. It's always amazing to me how a shadow can look completely different on your finger than it did in the pan, and different again when you put it on the eye. Sometimes a swatch doesn't tell the whole story. Sometimes a shadow will swatch beautifully and look terrible in your eyes, and other times it will swatch terribly and look great on your eyes. These swatch kind of patchy, but my hands are really dry too, so that can explain that a little bit. So what do you guys, just knock something off. It isn't a video of mine if I haven't knocked something off the table. What do you guys have for a snack or beverage? I've got some coffee here. It's decaf, otherwise I'll be up till next Tuesday. But I figured I should have something to drink so that I don't get too dry. All right, so that's that one. I'm almost finished with my bottom half of the pile. This one is from BH Cosmetics, and it's one of their early palettes that BH came out with. This is Flower Power, and I'd wanted this one for a long time, and they had a sale, so I went ahead and bought it. And I didn't realize until I got it how tiny the pans were. So most of BH Cosmetics pans are bigger. Water's good, Erin. But these are really tiny pans, but it's also really pretty. I love this one in the springtime because you can almost make like an Easter egg look with it. The pinks and the purples. You can also be really neutral if you want. There's plenty of neutrals in here. So if you just want to play with color just a little bit, but you don't want to get all in on it, then you can do a neutral look and just put a little bit of purple on the lower lash line, or just a little bit of color right here in the inner corner. And that can be a fun way to dip your toes in the water with color, get used to it on your face. Because what I found is if you're not used to wearing something, the first time you put it on, it's going to look like so much. Even if it doesn't look that way to anybody else, to you, it's going to feel like a lot. So if you can kind of dip your toes in just a little bit, then next time that doesn't seem so daunting anymore. Mary says, Tarte is my favorite, but I think ColourPop is going to be a new favorite. I have to stick with, yeah, decaf's no fun. I was decaf for like 12 years. I had an issue with caffeine messing with my stomach. So for a really long time, I couldn't have caffeine of any kind at all. And I kind of wish that I hadn't tested it again to see if I could tolerate it, because apparently now I can. But I think it's better not to have caffeine, but it is not very much fun to not be able to have it. And then there was a time when I could like go out to dinner and have a Diet Coke and have a couple of refills and go home and go to bed. And now if I have caffeine after 3, it messes with my sleep so bad. All right, moving on. It's a little bit distracting because there's a lag on the live from what I'm talking about. So I have to just not pay attention to that. This one is Morphe, easy for you to say, and the Madison Beer. I don't know who that is. I assume she's an influencer collaboration. And this is one of those palettes that if you had this and you like neutrals, you probably wouldn't need anything else, because there's a lot of neutrals in here. There's mattes, there's shimmers, there are warm tones up here, and then this bottom half is more cool. And just to explain a little bit more about warm and cool, warm tones are those that are fiery, so oranges and yellows and reds, and cool tones have more blue and pink in the, that kind of tone in them. So if you've got the oranges versus a more blue tone base, that's the distinction between warm and cool. So this one, I really like this kind of dusty mauve shade. This creates a really pretty look with some of these mattes down here. All right, so that's my bottom half, and I'm going to try to stack my palettes to the side so that they aren't in danger of falling and breaking. You're welcome, Mary. I'm glad that was helpful. Before we get into my second half, I did want to say I just got this in the mail today. This is the new Wet n Wild Bare Focus Niacinamide Skin Tint. It has 5% niacinamide in it, and I'm pretty happy and excited to try this. I saw one person review it, and it looked really pretty on her skin. And I don't know if you guys probably know, I love the Wet n Wild Tinted Hydrator. So I'm excited to see how this niacinamide skin tint performs on my oily skin. All right, moving into the palettes that I really, 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 really like versus the ones that I just really like. This e.l.f. one, the e.l.f. 10 pan, I've talked about this a lot recently. And I think this might have even been in my top 10 neutral palettes. Such a pretty palette and performs so, so well. This one right here almost kind of doesn't seem to belong in here. Oh, Mary, you've tried the Wet n Wild Skin Tint? Very cool. I'm glad to hear that. Because it's more gold and it kind of is a little bit warm. But that's also not a bad thing because then it gives you a little bit more variety. It's just, I think it would be a little harder to use this one because you're going to probably want to make sure you stick with like this matte here. Well, no, that's more of a satin. I thought that was a matte, but I put my finger in it and it's shining. It's not as foiled as these guys, but this here, you can see that's pretty cool tone, but I think you could pair it with that warm shimmer there. Anyway, sometimes when there's a color in there that you're not exactly sure how it fits, it makes me wonder, like, what were they thinking? What was the reasoning behind putting that one in there versus something that was maybe a little cooler toned to go with the rest of it? Anyway, the story on this one is I put it on in the film. I had a full face of e.l.f. that I was doing, and I put this on, and I was like, not really very exciting. And so I wasn't sure that I liked it when I finished the filming the video. And then later on in the day, I walked past a mirror and saw myself, and I looked again, and I thought it was beautiful. It was very pigmented and shimmery. And so I guess it just got washed out in my lights, but in real life, it was really pretty. So this is one of my favorites. Unfortunately, it is in palette jail. What did I call it? The palette vault. This was one of the palettes that I used in January. And so it's going back to Bora Bora or Fiji or wherever these palettes are on vacation enjoying their best life, because I can't use it again until I get through some of my other palettes. Alter Ego Blooms palette. If I had been on my game a little bit more, I would have looked up and told you what Natasha Denona palette this was duping, but I didn't. So I think it might be Love or something like that. I don't know. But this, I think, is an absolutely, like, the epitome of a Valentine's palette. Pinks and purples and shimmers, and you want to get full glam on Valentine's Day, and this palette's going to do it for you. So I really like this. The other thing that I have discovered that I really like about Alter Ego versus Natasha Denona or some of the others that they do is that Alter Ego is vegan and Natasha Denona is not. And I am not vegan for the sake of being vegan. I'm vegan for the sake of not having carmine in palettes because I'm allergic to it and I can't have it. Excuse me. And if you saw my recent video where I was going through the palettes I used in January, after I used the Natasha Denona Retro Glam, I discovered that 4 of the shades in there have carmine in them, which was explaining why my eyes were watering the whole day that I used that palette. And that makes me sad. I'm glad that I got the palette for as inexpensively as I did. If I'd paid full price and then discovered it, because, I mean, that's all on me. I didn't do my research, but I would have been really upset. So, yeah, color can be a little scary, Mary. Sometimes I think it's fun to just play with it at home and then get used to it before you actually, like, venture out with it on. I know the first time after I got more into color that I went out with like a blue eyeshadow on, especially growing up in the 80s. I felt like everybody, it was neon on my eyes. Nobody said anything, so it's okay. Not that I care either. I've finally gotten to the age where I don't care what anybody thinks. And because this is a berry toned eyeshadow palette, and sometimes berries are not just pink, I brought in my blueberry muffin. This is a BH Cosmetics palette. This it's kind of the same as their travel series, but then they had a couple that were more food themed. Thank you, Mary. Most of the time I do neutral. Today I want a little bit more warm toned. I'm not very Valentine's-y at all today, but I was wearing this green sweater and I just kind of wanted to go with the coral orange tones. But anyway, so going back to blueberries. Blueberries are a berry. And so this is the blue palette that I chose to keep. I had several of them when I did my palette collection and declutter last February and realized that I almost never wear blue. And so I didn't need more than one blue palette. So I lined up the ones I had. I don't remember, there wasn't a lot, maybe 3 or 4. And this is the one that I decided to keep. And one reason I like it, it's hard to show on camera because it's so reflective, but it has plenty of neutrals in here. So there's this taupey neutral, and there's a kind of a peach neutral down here, and then a couple of browns to help you ground a look. So you could do mostly a neutral look and then just use a little bit of blue. Again, like I said, if you're just playing with color, or you can go full in with the blue look and be a mermaid, because, you know, if you can be a mermaid, why not? So really like this. And this formula from BH is absolutely fantastic. I don't think they're creating any new palettes with this formula. The history was BH Cosmetics declared bankruptcy, Revolution bought them, and then they have access to all of BH's formulas. They released some new palettes, but they were not the same quality. So I don't know why they would have an amazing formula and choose not to use it, but I'm not in that boardroom making those decisions. So anyway, but Blueberry Muffin is absolutely gorgeous. This Aromas from You Can Be is I think it's a Huda Beauty dupe, but again, I don't know which one. The one thing I don't like about this one is there are 2 pressed glitters here, and they've been swatched, but they won't be on my eyes because glitter and contacts do not mix. But the other colors in here are super pretty, and again, a mix of warm and cool. This taupe down here is very cool toned, whereas this here, if you want this one for a transition shade, is a little bit more warm toned. Or as the granddaughter of one of my followers always says, the transmission shade. Hi, Shelby. If you see this, I'm giving you a special shout out because I think you're adorable. So anyway, yeah, again, you've got some golds and berries in here, and really enjoy using this one. You Can Be, by the way, is found on Amazon, and it's a lot less expensive than, you know, I would think that glitter would get in people's eyes. I know if you use a glitter glue, it can help hold it onto your eyes, but it still falls out. And I wore it a little bit when I got the Tati palette. It has a whole row of glitters, and I did wear those some, but I didn't wear them if I was going to have it on all day. I would put it on like to go to the theater or something like that. But yeah, I think I did one time get some glitter in like under my contact, and that was the last time. I won't wear it again. So I think it's a waste of space to put those in palettes. They're super pretty. I mean, and these are really creamy. They're in a base that isn't just, so, I mean, it's like, that's not falling off of my hand. And if I put it on here, all of it from there went onto here. But I would think that it, as the day went on, that would, you know, fall off of there. So, but it's really pretty. Just not for me. And now I'm going to sparkle. You guys are going to see me later, and my hands are going to be sparkling. All right, so that's one of them. That's another one. And then this Morphe, I didn't realize I had a couple of Morphes in here, but again, I got this one in friend mail. This is Vava Bloom, and this one I did keep the Shade Saver because it has the names on it. But you want Barbie? This palette is going to give you Barbie because it has some really pretty just cotton candy pinks. And in fact, I think when we went to see the Barbie movie, I think this is the palette that I used. But it also has some really pretty mattes, and you know, you can get very deep or you can keep it pretty light. So I definitely really like this formula, and it's got a very, very nice shimmer formula. These don't end up all over my face when I wear these shimmers. So let me put this thing back in here. Okay, I've got 4 left, and I'm going to say that these are my top 4. If you guys have any questions, put those over there in the comments, and when I wrap these 4 up, we can just chat. and answer some questions if you have any. This is, I think, the only Too Faced palette I have. It's the Too Faced Natural Lust palette. And it is, oh, I think I just dug something. I think I just got my fingernail in one of them. No, didn't do too much damage. There are so many options in here that this actually came with a booklet that had different eye looks in it. And the first week I used this, I went through the book. I think there were 7 looks in it. And I recreated each of the looks. And so I think I pretty much used every shade in the palette. And I thought it was a great way to get to know the palette, because otherwise, when I have a palette that is this big, I tend to stick to the same few shades all the time. And so following along with that booklet was really helpful. And in fact, I thought, you know, I could do a video recreating the looks in the booklet, and I never did it. So if that's something that you would like to see me do, let me know, because it would take a lot of work to do it, but if it's going to be watched, then I will definitely do that. I really, really like this shade down here. You can make such a pretty, like, soft, lavenderish, heathered, purple gray look, and it just turns out so pretty. And then there's also just a little bit of pops of color in here. You've got this green, which is really pretty, and this kind of olive up here that is also really interesting. So it's neutral, but then there's a little bit of color in there. So that's one that is, again, nice to be wearable, but let you play with color a little bit. I'm going to need a new wipe, I think. This one's getting a little bit saturated with shimmers. Okay. I am going to pull in the next. I've got 3 more. So top 3, Stone Cold Fox. Used to be my very top palette, but there are 3 shades in here I can't use, and 2 of them are probably 2 of my, well, actually I like all 3 of them. This shimmer here, and that one here I can't use, and those are probably ones that I used most. So that kind of knocked it out of my top spot. But while it's generally just a neutral, it actually does have quite a few rosy toned shades in here. And this shimmer is really pretty. So this one is also really good. If you can especially find these on when they do their large palettes on sale, then it's a really good deal. This one was actually given to me by someone, and I am ever so grateful and really enjoy using it. But it has kind of gotten bumped out because when I'm getting ready in a hurry, sometimes I forget to check for my marks and end up using a shade that I'm not supposed to use. Just made a mess of myself. Okay. These 2 are a couple of... Hello, Needle Sharp. What's your name? And let us know who you are, what your name is, so we can all say hello. We are going through my neutral... Hi, Angie. Good to see you. We're going through my rosy toned palettes and almost have gotten through them. Then we're going to just kind of sit around and chat if anybody has any questions. So the next 2 are from Sydney Grace. I just discovered Sydney Grace last year, bought these in their Christmas in July sale, and I already have a list of what I want to get in this Christmas in July sale. These are so good. If you've ever seen anybody go on and on and on about Sydney Grace, there's a reason for it. And this one is the Glitzy Fritzy palette, the Blessed palette. I love Mary. I've been watching her for a really long time. And while this isn't strictly a rosy tone palette, there's a lot of other shades in here. It creates a beautiful rosy toned look with this. They're just, I mean, they are like butter. This shade here, and then you've got some really pretty mattes, and just a beautiful, those 3 shades right there create the most beautiful feminine pink soft look and absolutely love it. And then, appropriate for Valentine's Day, the Be Mine palette. I saved this one for last just because of the X's and that was in being Valentine's Day. Also from Sydney Grace. It's a little bit deeper and can get a little smokier than that Blessed palette, although that one has some pretty deep and smoky too. But it also has a little bit more in the berry tones. So you've got a shimmer here that's a little darker, and this one over here. And then this pink here. So you've got a little bit more option on the pink tones in this one. And this is a beautiful transition. I want to say transmission shade like Shelby does. Transition shade. So anyway, those two are probably at the top of my list for using right now. And I used them in, did I use them both in January? I can't remember. And saved them from going into the palette vault because remember, if you watch that video, I was able to keep 3 of my palettes out and the rest of them had to get put away, forcing me to use other palettes each month. Yeah, Mary, the Be Mine one is just beautiful and beautiful formula. So those are the palettes I got out to share with you guys today. Does anybody have any questions or anything else that you would like to see? Because we can hang out for longer, or we can go ahead and sign off and say goodbye. And I have to wait a little bit for the chat for the live feed to catch up because there's a bit of a delay. So I'm going to have a drink of coffee while you guys catch up. I have a drinking problem. Oh, goodness. On my white shirt, of course. How I keep shimmer on my lids, I do have a couple of different primers that I like, Mary. And I'm looking for them for you. Hang on. My favorite primer is this one from Ulta Beauty. It's the matte eye primer, and I think with oily lids, that one would probably be helpful to you. You don't need much of it. I put about this much, that's even too much. I put about that much on my finger and then rub them together to kind of warm it up. Put that on, I just dab it on my lids. That's even a lot. And then I take a brush and kind of dab it in to get all of the extra off. And then I go ahead and do my matte shadows. And before I put the shimmers on, I use a glitter glue. So this one's from Hard Candy, but NYX also has one. And this, then you just take a small amount, looks just like Elmer's glue. And I just tap it like this so that it doesn't disturb the shadows that are underneath. And I put it right there. Okay, so just on that part of the lid. And a lot of times I will go ahead and lift up here because, you know, we got these saggy eyelids we're dealing with. So I'll lift up and tap it on and only do one eye at a time. Then go into your shimmer and again, lifting up, tap on your shimmer, and then you can let go. If you try to do both eyes at one time, you're going to end up with glitter glue like up in here and places you don't want it. So you kind of have to work one eye at a time. And like I said, and then lift up. If you've got the saggy skin, you got to lift it up and get it stretched out. So that's how I keep shimmer on my eyelids. So try that and let me know. And Angie, I don't have the Sakura palette. I do have the Natasha Denona Retro Glam. And I actually have to rehome this because 4 of the shades have carmine in them, and I have a carmine allergy. So I actually do want to get the Sakura palette, but I'm on a low buy until April 1st. And then my birthday month is April, and I let myself do a little shopping then. But I kind of buy in, I have certain times of the year that I let myself purchase makeup, and Good Friday and holiday sales are one of them. And so then I take a 3-month break until my birthday. But I think Sakura is probably going to be one of the ones that I buy because I really, really do like this color story, especially for spring. It's just so pretty, and there's so much variety in here. And so from the reviews I've seen of other creators on YouTube, the formulas are really, really good. Angie, it's April 30th is mine. When's yours? So the formula is very similar to the Natasha Denona, and the color story is spot on. So that is one that I probably will be picking up in April. Well, I'm glad we share a birthday month. That's fun. Although I'm a Taurus, I don't think you are, because I think you're early enough in the month to be, what is it? I don't know. I don't know my horoscope signs very well. So any other questions? What do you guys want to know? Yes, Aries. That was going to be my guess, but I didn't want to guess and then be wrong, which, you know, why? It's okay if we guess and are wrong. The other one that I want to buy, I think from Sydney Grace when that comes out, is the either the Tiny Marvels, I can't decide, or the new one that they just came out with, which is the bridal one. Although I think that's going to be very similar to the ones I have. And so I also have some Sydney Grace singles that I need to get in a Z palette so that I can start using those, because it's just a great formula. A good overall neutral palette. Let's see. This one from Alter Ego is Shadow Kiss. It is a dupe of the Natasha Denona Glam palette. And Angie, I can help you with greens in just a minute. And so this one here, Mary, is, I think, really nice because it's a good mix of cool and warm. And the shimmers are really, really smooth. My palette is a mess because I use it a lot. But you've got, this is a really nice, cool toned transition shade. And then these browns down here are a little bit, especially this one is a little bit more cool tone. No, they look different in the viewfinder than they do in person. This one's a little more cool toned here. And then you've got this really pretty taupe shimmer. Oh, so pretty. So pretty. And this one up here as well. They're a little bit similar, but this one has a little bit more olive in it than this one does. It's very loved. Yes, I definitely use it a lot. But if you wanted to go warmer with it, then, you know, you've got these colors here and this kind of goldish shimmer there. So there's just, and then this is kind of more of a silvery, just so much variety in what looks like just a basic neutral palette, but it's definitely not boring. So that's a really good neutral. I need to get another wipe out so I can get my fingers clean. And then, yeah, I think if I were going to go neutral, it would probably be this one from what I've got up here now. I've got palettes kind of everywhere. But for a green, Angie, I love the avocado toast from BH Cosmetics. I don't know if you can still get it, so I almost am reluctant to share it. But it's green, but it's not just green. There's other options in there. And they're kind of a little bit grungy green and not like, you know, bright green. So that one I like for green. And then if you want something really inexpensive, the Essence Dancing Green. And I want to sing young and sweet. Oh no. So anyway, this one is really pretty too, because you have kind of a goldish olive, a little bit more muted green, and then this deeper green, and it's just really pretty. Plus you've got 3 mattes to create the base of the look with, and then these beautiful shimmers. And this one's only like $3.99. So those are probably my top green palettes. Let me just, if you want, I don't know if you can get that one though. Yeah, I think that's what I would recommend for greens. Oh, good choice. You just got that dancing green with an Ulta gift card. You're going to love it. How do I decide my color theme each day? Sometimes I get dressed first, and then I go with what I have on and try to just, I don't necessarily try to match color what I'm wearing, but I try to match tone and undertone. So like if I'm wearing this green is kind of it's kind of neutral, so I could go either way with it, but I tend to like to wear warmer tones with greens. And so then I just pick up my warmer tone palettes and go. Sometimes I just reach and grab a palette and open it up and say, that looks good. And then I go find clothes that match. So it just depends. And sometimes I have something, I get dressed first and then go a different direction with my makeup and realize I have to change my clothes because it just doesn't go together at all. And if you saw my Valentine's Day look, I thought that I had everything picked out and that it would go together well. And I got my lip on and it just didn't work because the lip was much too warm for the look that I had on. So sometimes I pick well and sometimes I don't, and I have to change something. And it's usually easier to change my clothes than it is to change my makeup. So that's how I do my color theme. And sometimes I wake up and sometimes I think I just really want to be purple today. And other days I'm like, nope, just neutral, or I just want to be quick and easy, or I've been editing and I have 7.5 minutes to get ready and out the door. So sometimes that chooses for me too. Thank you, Mary. That was very sweet of you. So I am curious, not that I want anybody to do anything with it, but I'm curious if under your live, into your screen, if you see an option for thanks or super thanks under the video. Let me know if you see that. Because I did reach YouTube's first level of monetization, which doesn't give you any share of ad revenue, but it does allow memberships and thanks and super thanks and that kind of thing. And so I just wondered if you guys can see that under your viewing screen. Let me know. Like I said, I don't want anybody to necessarily do anything with it. I just want to know if it's there. My coffee's cold. No, you don't see it. Interesting. I thought that was something that should be there. I'll have to check into that. No, you don't either. Yeah, because I don't see it on mine either, but I didn't know if it was because I was, watching it on my own account kind of thing. Okay, interesting. All right, thanks, Angie. So I think that we're going to wrap this up. I know it's Wednesday night, it's Ash Wednesday, and some of us have church tonight. And so I am going to probably just, unless you guys have any other questions that you want to ask before we run off, I want to say thank you for showing up to my live. I'm hoping to do these weekly on Wednesday afternoons. So if you have a topic that you'd like me to cover, drop it in the chat and I will make a list of future topics, and hopefully by doing this weekly, people will get to the point where they expect them, and then we have more friends showing up and we can chat and hang out and have a lot of fun on Wednesday afternoons. But otherwise, I think, oh, hey, Jody. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. And Mary, I'm glad that this was helpful. Anyway, write down some questions. You can message me on IG. It's Tina H Beautiful Journey over there, or hop onto a post on my community page or something if you want to send me a recommendation or something you want me to know. Something you want me to know? No, something you want to know from me. And I will take it up in a future live. Happy Valentine's Day. Yes, great hanging out with you too. So, all right, everybody, I hope you have a great day and a nice evening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Take care.